Hello Internet, it's Tiffany back with another video. It's the middle of the night, but I've just woken up and I just have this message that's so strong in my mind that I know I won't be able to sleep at all until I try to translate it out. I'm hiding in my closet right now, trying to speak as clearly but as quietly as I can. But the topic that I want to discuss right now is about energetic ties, which I touched on a little in my last video, and the way that feeding into other people's projections of us can actually drain on our energy. And so I wanted to dive into that topic a little bit more and talk about how can we tell when someone or something, particularly someone, because um, sort of the relationship we have to other people is usually more personal and more emotional, and we feel more obligation to maintain relationships with people because we know that those other people also have feelings, compared to something like a job where it might be easier to acknowledge that you're not satisfied in it or that it's draining you in some way. So how can we tell um, when someone is draining on our energy? What does it feel like? And so, some examples of this might be just think about people that you interact with on a regular basis. It could be family, coworkers, or close friends. And think about how you feel before you see those people or do those things. Are you excited to go there? Or do you kind of feel like, oh, not this thing again, right? And when you get there, how do you feel? What is the conversation like? Do you find yourself going there with lots of things that you're excited to share, new projects you've been working on or developments in your life or relationships? And you maybe feel hopeful that if you share these with this person, you're going to get some positive feedback or some support or good for you. I'm really happy to hear that. Do you feel and do you receive those things? Or do you find people, do you feel like you have to hide the good things that are happening in your life because you don't want to come off in a certain way, either as bragging, or um, as though you think yourself to be better or advantaged or some way, higher up the ladder than they are? And is this because of your attitude or is it because of theirs? Is this someone who you hang out with and, you come home feeling upset about things that you weren't upset about until you saw them? So let's say I have a girlfriend, and every time we get together, we start talking about the things about our partner that annoy us. And maybe I was having a really good, time before that. Maybe my partner and I have been getting along really well. But as the stories come out of, this day so and so did such and such to me, and that feeling we have to, um, by any intention, whether it's to show support to them or show understanding, or it just reminds us of something that we hadn't put too much stock in, but we have this urge to say, oh yeah, me too, here's a story of my life that kind of sucks in the same way that the story you're telling me sucks. And what this does, whether we realize it or not, is it lowers our vibration, right? It lowers our energy to match a lower frequency. So instead of feeling positive now, we switch to feeling negative because we're choosing to focus on negative things in order to participate in the conversations that we're having with these people. So these can be ways. Another way is how long does the interaction stay with you or weigh on you once you're done, right? Do you come home from work feeling not just annoyed and frustrated from your day, but are you able to shut that off when you get home? Or do you feel the urge to tell everyone about the terrible things that happened in your workday? Maybe you're only looking for support and validation, but the fact that you constantly feel the need to share these negative things, and even the search for validation itself, kind of implies a lack of following your self compass or your intuition, right? Because if you were following your intuition, you would recognize that things that make you feel icky are not great for you and you wouldn't do them. You wouldn't feel the need consciously or subconsciously to, misery loves company, to share those things, to feel that positive influx of, support or yeah, validation from your friends. So once you realize that these interactions can be negative, so how do you quantify this? Do you blame the other person, right? We can call them an energetic vampire or a leech, or someone who, purposefully is trying to drag us down to their level. And maybe that happens sometimes, but in most cases it's probably not the case. In most cases, people probably don't realize that their sharing of their negative feelings, or that the misery loves company effect, is true and real. And in most cases, they might, even though you may come home from that interaction feeling worse, they might come home from that interaction feeling better. And they confuse this with a sense of, oh, this person is such a great friend, and they're always supporting me, even though they don't realize that you come home feeling like, oh my God, I can't believe I had to sit through that again. And in some cases, in worse cases, um, maybe that person feels better in sort of a backhanded way, thinking, well, at least perfect so and so also goes through the same type of things that I do. At least, they're not doing as well as they pretend. And this sort of, um, this can create that feeling of competition between people who weren't really meant to be competing against each other. And it's like a false, it's like artificial sweetener. That's the term that popped into my head. It's those people are not truly benefiting from a raise in frequency or in energy either. They're siphoning off your good energy, but when by the time they receive it, it's no longer, you know, you're optimistic, you're positive, you look for the bright side. By the time they've taken a chunk of that time and energy you've shared with them and absorbed it into their own energetic system, it's turned into, um, some type of negative positive or false positive, where that that boost of energy is only coming from satisfaction that you are also suffering, if that makes sense. So, by calling these people or these situations leeches or vampires, or saying that they have soul ties to you, or whatever, it kind of puts this picture out that they are grabbing onto you and that you have no say or control. But that's not the case. People can only attach to us in the capacity that we allow them to, right? And so when you realize that these people might be pulling away your energy in a way that is so negative for you, you can decide what you do and how you approach this. And for a lot of people, the first thing they're going to try to do is try to pull that relationship upward into a more positive space so that the relationship with that person can continue. So if this is a family member or a friend or a relationship or someone that you have a lot of history and nostalgia with, you're not going to say, oh, well, they're bringing me down, so let's cut them off. What you're going to try to do is maybe steer the conversation towards positives. Maybe try to encourage them to also get out and try new things, and try to help them, pull them up from one rung to the next and bring them to a place where they can feel as positive about their life, or at least try to, right? At least look for those positive things instead of the negatives. And in some cases, this might work, but that's only if they themselves are ready and willing and searching for someone to kind of pull them up. Maybe they're stuck and you've given them a breakthrough, and that's wonderful. But in a lot of cases, again, when you share something positive and someone's upset by that because they were almost hoping that your life kind of sucks too, those are not people that you can generally pull up, because the more that you interact with them, the more frustrated you're going to be when you notice that nothing you try is working. Every interaction is still kind of negative, or it leaves you with this icky feeling or this bad taste in your mouth. And those relationships can sour. And it's not personal. It's not meant to be judgmental, but at the end of the day, we have to realize that we become like the people who are around us. We become like the environment that is around us. And if we're constantly in a high vibrational, or, a positive mood and a positive environment, it's easier to consistently feel positive. And the same is true for negative. If you're always around people, or you're always in a workplace or an environment that pulls on your energy and drains you and makes you just feel, that existential unhappiness with everything, whether that is objectively true, if you were to make a list of good and bad things that was actually going on in your life, the feelings are not always proportionate to the experience, because feelings kind of win. If it was rock, paper, scissors, right? Your feelings kind of nag on you and weigh on you in ways that your logical mind cannot always understand or talk yourself out of. So at some point, you're faced with the realization that maybe you've just outgrown these people. Maybe there's nothing wrong with these people or these jobs or these relationships or anything. It's just if you are constantly trying to focus on the positive and expand your life and chase your happiness and try new things, and other people are either scared to do that or don't realize that they can, and they remain stuck in their own patterns or whatever it is. I'm thinking again about the movie Free Guy, when Ryan Reynolds' character is off, trying to accumulate points, and he's living his life a different way, and all of his coworkers at the bank are looking at him like, "What are you doing?" And he tries to say, "Come on with me, it's fun, put on these glasses and the world will open up to you." And they just don't have that ability to trust that, or they just don't feel like that's, the path that's for them, or whatever it may be. They just can't break out of the mental box to try something that's so radical. So now Ryan Reynolds' character has the choice. Do I stay here with my friends and try to convince them, or do I get on with my own life and hope that leading by example is going to show them what's possible? And that's a much better way to try to positively influence people, is really to not to try at all, and to just live your own life the best way that you can, and hope that that is noticed by people who are meant to notice. But again, not giving that too much thought either, because your main goal is keeping yourself happy, keeping yourself aligned, and making sure that your energy is in a place that makes your body feel comfortable, right? So it can be challenging because we don't like to sever ties with people. But at the end of the day, when we realize that these drains on our energy are going to keep dripping like a leaky faucet, right? That energy that you pour into those people will always drip out through the holes of their own negative attitude or whatever. You're not actually even helping them by maintaining that connection, because now what you've done is, you have, in a sense, enabled whatever the behavior or attitude it is that is causing you to feel drained. So, people who are always gossiping, and you don't want to be that way, but you still want to be friends with those people. Now, if you're not engaging in that gossip, now you start to feel this disconnect, like, what does this friendship have for me? What do I have for them? Do they still like me? Right? Can we still be friends? Can we still get along? And it creates even more friction in the relationship until you are able to admit to yourself, you know what? We just don't vibe anymore. And that's fine, because there's always other people, and it is lonelier, the higher your vibration, maybe the harder it is to find people who you feel genuinely positive around. But at the end of the day, too, if you're looking at the hermit's journey, right, and it's a journey of self-discovery, and it's very internal, and it can be very isolating at times. But when you realize that you can feel perfectly satisfied in your own company, it raises the bar for whatever company you're willing to participate in, right? Hanging out with you has to be as good or better than hanging out with nobody, or else it's just a waste, in a sense, of my time and energy, because now I'm investing, hopes and dreams, waiting for reactions, um, trying to lend a helping hand, and throwing out all of this energy towards people who, even if they receive it, are sort of twisting it into this, now at least I know she's not perfect either. At least I know, whatever that may be, that sort of negative spin on the help that you're trying to give. And again, that comes down to the projection, the way that they are seeing the world. And if they're seeing the world through a lower vibration, a victim mentality, or even if they don't realize that these are the case, life is so unfair to me, is a victim mentality. Or, everything in my life sucks and this always happens and it will never change. And they're refusing to hear when you say, you actually can choose differently and change, right? So this is something that you have to use your own intuition to guide you. And it's a very difficult position to be in, and a choice to make. Of course, because we do care about people, and we do care about their feelings and their feelings toward us and their perceptions of us, and vice versa. But again, if what you really want to have is peace and happiness in your own life, at some point you have to realize that means not hanging out in places and with people that don't bring you peace and happiness, or that take away from those things in your own self. So, yeah, those were my middle of the night thoughts. I hope that is useful. I hope I spoke loudly enough. I hope my son did not wake up. Thank you for listening. I'm Sipiphany, and I hope you have a wonderful day or night.